I, Victoria Simmons, a 62-year-old member of the design department at a stationery manufacturer, found myself facing an unexpected situation. Carol, the president's daughter, had taken charge of the design department, and it became apparent that she was oblivious to my 4 decades of dedication to the company, during which I had crafted 90% of our flagship products. Fueled by a desire to rectify this oversight, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I've been with this company for 40 years, and I've designed the majority of our flagship products. I asserted, I'll tidy up everything before I leave. With that, I meticulously cleaned up my workspace, wiped all my PC data, and tendered my resignation. As a widow who had lost her husband a decade ago, and with my daughter living independently, my commitment to my work remained steadfast even after reaching retirement age. I took pride in my designs, seeing stationery as more than just products. It embodied dreams, enabling tasks like writing, drawing, painting, erasing, measuring, and making each activity functional and enjoyable for a diverse audience, from school children to professionals. Reflecting on my years of service, I acknowledged the uncertainty of how much longer I could continue, but my love for the job prevailed. Jokingly, I often teased younger colleagues that I would persist until I could no longer stand. Little did I know that my dedication would soon be put to the test by the unexpected turn of events triggered by Carol's assumption of leadership. The morning after Carol's introduction, President Kennedy, my longtime colleague from the year of my employment, made a rare appearance at a meeting. With him was Carol, and he introduced her as the replacement for the recently departed department head. Carol, the president's daughter, greeted everyone, expressing her dedication to the future growth of the company. The revelation took the entire department by surprise, and the news of Carol's appointment as the head of the department circulated amongst the staff. Kennedy shared the company's plans to expand overseas and emphasized Carol's role in creating globally competitive designs. In the midst of the unfolding changes, Wilson, one of my colleagues, approached me curiously. "Victoria, what are your thoughts on Carol?" he inquired, seeking my perspective on the unexpected leadership transition. I've observed Carol since she was a child, although we'd never exchanged words. The president used to bring her along to company recreational events, but it's been quite some time since I last saw her. She has grown into a poised young lady, and I suspect the president intends to leverage her international experience. However, whether she comprehends the intricacies of the design industry remains uncertain. We'll have to wait and see how she adapts. There was a subtle hint of skepticism towards Carol in Wilson's demeanor. "Wilson, let's stay focused on our duties," I remarked, attempting to redirect his attention. "Yes, you're right. My apologies," Wilson conceded. As events unfolded, Wilson's intuition proved accurate. A month had elapsed since Carol assumed her role. We continued our routine tasks, brainstorming ideas and designing stationery at our desks. Then Carol gathered us together unexpectedly. "I have an announcement to make," she declared, stepping into the center of the room. "Next month, we'll begin developing products for the international market, starting with the UK. If successful, we'll establish a base in London and expand to hub offices globally." Wilson's eyes widened in surprise as Carol outlined her strategy. "Initially, we'll focus on creating new products through an internal competition," she explained. The plan encompassed both selling existing items and developing fresh concepts, with a release date slated for 6 months hence. Curious about the direction of our product development, I posed a question to Carol. Her initially amiable demeanor hardened as she responded sharply, "Simmons, as our most seasoned employee, I didn't expect such a basic inquiry from you. I want innovative ideas, nothing outdated." Taken aback by her abrupt retort, I was left momentarily stunned. With composed composure, Carol concluded her remarks and returned to her desk, signaling the commencement of the weekly internal competition. The weekly internal competition continued to be a focal point of our work. I found myself daydreaming about the possibility of American origin stationery gaining worldwide popularity, much like in Hollywood movies. In my pursuit of fresh product ideas, I recognized a change from my younger days. The quantity of ideas dwindled with age, yet the quality of each concept markedly improved. Despite this shift, I remained confident in the worth of my ideas, even if they didn't surface every week. However, Carol seemed less tolerant of this approach. Over the past month, she expressed dissatisfaction, emphasizing the need for a prolific flow of ideas. In our recent efforts, we had generated over 200 ideas, with Wilson contributing 20%. Carol stressed that in the unpredictable market, the more ideas, the better. During the meeting, Carol directed her comments squarely at me, implying a lack of effort. Unfazed, I exchanged a secret wink with Wilson, who had modestly contributed ideas. After the meeting, Wilson approached me, expressing gratitude for my unique way of expanding associations. He found Carol's approach overly direct and irritating. I reassured him, acknowledging that not many ideas were surfacing, but emphasized that the final judgment rested with the users. As another month passed, we narrowed down our ideas and designed approximately 50 specific products. While none of my ideas made the final cut, 5 of my designs received nominations. Carol, however, seemed displeased. A UK buyer, Mr. Lee, visited us that day with hopes of finalizing the agency agreement. In the afternoon, Carol and Mr. Lee returned after 3 hours. To my surprise, Carol congratulated Wilson, indicating that one of his 3 designs would likely be chosen. Wilson looked surprised but grateful. Later, I heard that everyone had expected one of my designs to be chosen. I harbored no resentment, genuinely happy for Wilson's success. It was indeed gratifying to witness a colleague making their mark in the world. I poured out my feelings, speaking from the depths of my heart. Unexpectedly, Carol's face flushed with anger. "That's so irritating. What's with this saintly act of yours?" she lashed out. "You can only come up with 4 or 5 ideas a month and still act so high and mighty. Do you think everyone respects you just because you've been here the longest?" Her words cut deep, catching me off guard. I never imagined she saw me in such a light. Yet, her accusations ignited a flame within me. "Excuse me, but how much do you actually know about design?" I retorted, my voice tinged with frustration. "Do you remember the process of selecting everyone's ideas and designs? None of the works you favored are left in the final selection. You lack a professional's eye. You don't understand our struggle." At that moment, Carol lost her composure. "Oh dear, to think you'd say such things to me. I'm a manager, you know," she snapped, her eyes bloodshot with emotion. "You're done here as of today." Her sudden change stunned me, but I felt no urge to resist her command to leave. Still, her remark about my age stung. "I understand. I'll clean everything up nicely before leaving," I responded calmly, though I found her comment unnecessary. Concern crept into my mind about what would happen next. "What are you talking about? Worrying about what happens after you leave?" "Don't pretend to care," Carol scoffed triumphantly. "The department will rejuvenate and the young energy will keep coming. It's all good." Her words left me unsettled, but I maintained my composure. "I'm relieved to hear that. I'll start right away," I replied emotionlessly, beginning to pack my belongings. I discarded almost everything, saving only my designs on a memory stick and wiping the PC data clean. As I finished clearing out, Carol reminded me to submit my resignation. I obliged promptly, handing her the letter. She remarked on the speed of my response, taking it with a refreshing smile. Though I tried to mask it, I couldn't shake the uncertainty about what lay ahead. That night, my colleagues hastily organized a farewell party that turned into a chorus of criticism against Carol. Worries about the future of the design department weighed heavily on my mind. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the aftermath of a rare hangover. As I stumbled to the kitchen, the events of the previous day replayed in my mind, leaving me uncertain about what the future held. I reached for a water bottle in the fridge, gulping it down before settling on the living room sofa. feeling a sense of emptiness in my mind, a sensation I hadn't experienced since my student days, oddly making me a bit happy. Old habits die hard, and despite not feeling hungry, I considered making breakfast. Take it easy. You have all the time now, I advised myself with a chuckle. The thought of calling my daughter and visiting her crossed my mind. Right, I should do what I've always wanted to do, I muttered. Just then, my mobile phone rang, and it was Kennedy. Good morning, Mr. Kennedy. What's the matter calling so early? I inquired. It's not about what's the matter, Victoria. I tried calling you last night, too. Never mind that. Could you come to the office, please? He requested. But I resigned as of yesterday, I reminded him. Just come, please. This is in order. I'll be in my office. All right, he insisted. It was an unusual request for someone who had resigned. But I thought if he's insisting so much, it must be something urgent. After soothing my aching head with hot coffee, I called a taxi and headed to the office. Excuse me, I said as I knocked and entered the president's office. Good morning. Sorry for calling you in so early. Kennedy wanted to hear about what happened yesterday, and I explained everything carefully, avoiding exaggeration. I see. I am very sorry about that. The mess my foolish daughter made is my responsibility as her father. He expressed his deep apology. Victoria, would you consider withdrawing your resignation? We started here together, after all. Please. Although I harbored no negative feelings towards him and felt gratitude for employing me for a long time, his request caught me off guard. President Kennedy, it's not fair using our shared past like that. So, will you? I responded. All right. I'm counting on you, he said, heading to the design department office. In the hallway, I waited until called. The door was left open, allowing me to hear the conversation inside. Carol was surprised by her father's uncharacteristically stern tone, asking why he was there. When he questioned her about my resignation, she claimed it was due to personal reasons, but Kennedy wasn't convinced. Don't lie, Carol. She left because of her age, he asserted, glaring at her, leaving the surrounding staff speechless. It's not a lie. She left because of her age, Carol insisted. I've heard everything. Don't make a fool of me. Kennedy raised his voice sharply, startling Carol. Victoria. I swiftly entered the room upon being called, noticing the incredulous expression on Carol's face. It appeared as if her eyes might pop out of their sockets. Carol, I've heard it from Victoria. You don't seem to understand the gravity of your actions, Kennedy began, his tone stern but composed. Despite a slight calm in her demeanor, Carol drew in a deep breath before responding. How do I know if her story is true? She retorted sharply. Before anyone could react, Carol collapsed to the floor. Who do you think you are? Don't underestimate the real world. Kennedy's voice resonated with authority, the conversation taking on a parental tone. It's not just about how long she has worked, Carol insisted, her defiance palpable. Kennedy's frustration was evident. How dare you? Victoria has been faithfully serving for 40 years, designing 90% of our flagship products. She's the backbone of our company. Without her, the design department would fall apart. She's irreplaceable. You, on the other hand, are easily replaceable. Understand, he asserted firmly. Carol was momentarily at a loss for words, but her glare remained fixed on Kennedy. Then you should have told me that. How am I supposed to know if no one tells me? She retorted, her tone tinged with childish petulance. Laughter rippled through the staff, further intensifying the tension in the room. Kennedy turned his attention to the staff, his tone grave. Everyone, I am truly sorry. This incident is my responsibility as her father, he admitted, acknowledging his role in the situation. That's right. I never wanted to be in this department in the first place. Dad is to blame. Carol interjected bitterly, her frustration palpable. Kennedy's expression betrayed his shock at Carol's outburst. You are unbelievably hopeless, he remarked, his disappointment evident. Both Kennedy and Carol were caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. With resolve, I intervened. Carol, let me be clear. You are not cut out for a managerial role. In fact, you have a fatal flaw as a professional. Your conversation with President Kennedy just now proves it. You may have forgotten, but you called me an older lady? And as I've said before, your judgment in design is non-existent. It's hopeless, I asserted firmly. Carol remained in a state of shock as I continued. I changed my mind and decided to come back to work for the sake of the president and the design department. I've chosen to cherish my passion. I turned to Kennedy and offered an apology for my outburst. He shook his head gently and replied, "Not at all." "Thank you." Carol, visibly frustrated, bit her lip again, her gaze fixed downwards. A phone call interrupted the tense atmosphere intended for Carol. After a brief moment of hesitation, Kennedy answered it. The caller was Lee, and as Kennedy listened, he nodded and showed surprise at times. Eventually, he responded, "That's fine. I apologize for the inconvenience. We look forward to continued cooperation." It appeared the call concerned the selection of the design. Lee expressed that although my design was his top choice, he reluctantly went with Wilson's due to Carol's strong insistence and persuasion. He found it hard to discard my design and thus reached out. It seemed that Carol had come to terms with the situation. She appeared to surrender, dropping like a wilting sunflower after Lee's call. Kennedy laid out the conditions to Carol in front of the staff. "You will decide your own future. If you want to work in our company, start from the new employee training. Otherwise, you'll be assigned to one of our client companies," he stated firmly. Greatly humbled, Carol replied in a faint voice, "Yes." After the two left, all the staff gathered around me, expressing their joy. "See, I told you. This is for the best," Wilson remarked with a smile. Indeed, it seemed like things turned out just as he and everyone else had initially felt about Carol. That experience reminded me of how important intuition is for a designer. Subsequently, our market expansion into the UK went well. This time, we targeted teenagers, finding that the sensibilities of American and British teenagers are quite similar. While I don't think it applies to all age groups, it was a revelation. Considering the global use of social media, it's clear that the sharing of sensibilities is happening faster than imagined. So I believe that designs aimed at American consumers could also sell well. At my age, I never thought I'd be doing work with such a worldwide impact. I'm more motivated than ever. Visiting my daughter will have to wait. I guess it'll be another video call tonight.